What's all this?
My science project.
Hey, it's Janelle Waz. Welcome back to another episode of Treknalysis. It's been a while since I've done a Treknalysis video, so I figure why not talk about one of my spicier Star Trek takes.
I suppose I would have to describe that one as spicy.
The Dominion War, the war that nearly brought the Federation, Romulans, and even the Klingons to their knees. Though open war didn't start until DS9's 5th season, the Federation and Dominion had their share of smaller conflicts leading up to the war. But what was the cause exactly? What single event launched the Federation and Dominion into a conflict that would eventually lead to war? Was it the Founders' need for control?
Because what you can control can't hurt you.
Was it the Federation's need to explore strange new worlds in a dangerous part of the galaxy? Was it over Quark trying to acquire more Tullaberry wine that existed? Nah, those explanations would make too much sense. What if the event that caused Nog to lose his leg, Jadzia's life to be cut short, Gul Dukat to go crazy, well, not that, I have another theory for that, was a simple science project? Specifically, the science project of one Jake Sisko, son of Benjamin the Emissary Sisko. Sounds crazy? Maybe it is, but maybe there's something to it. Today, I'm taking a look at DS9's Season 2 finale, the Jem'Hadar, arguably when conflict with the Dominion started.
No one ever escapes from the Jem'Hadar.
On Star Trek Deep Space Nine.
Alright, before we get into this, I just want to say that this theory is about 75% joke, 25%, well... So, if you're planning on leaving long comments about how wrong I am, and how this couldn't possibly be what the writers intended, don't worry, I already know. Just take this theory with a grain of salt and just repeat to yourself,
it's just the show, I should really just relax.
The episode opens with Jake Sisko working on his science project when Dad Sisko enters the room. Jake's growing Bajoran caterpods to see which hybrid yields the biggest root. And if you're wondering what caterpods are, beans. He's growing beans.
Bush's baked beans made with our secret family recipe.
It's a simple but quiet life. And he's even got a regular farm growing right now. Surely this isn't what starts off the Dominion War, right? Beans? No. Even though Jake is pretty happy with this project, Dad wants him to aim a little higher than... beans. After all, it's a little low-tech.
I'm a low-tech kind of guy, Dad.
I do have to observe that this does kind of minimize the importance of agricultural work. Sure, Jake picked a pretty simple project, but when the replicators go down, what are you gonna eat, Ben? Maybe you should have invested in bean research. Not to mention that maybe Jake was trying to impress his teacher. After all, Keiko O'Brien is a botanist. Jake's only giving the main audience what she wants. But whatever, Dad's insisting on a more complicated project, to which Jake suggests piloting a runabout, because nothing says science project like taking the keys to Dad's car and joyriding. But Dad's not falling for it, so Jake suggests a planetary survey in the Gamma Quadrant, which will probably anger every other student in his class that wanted to just put in the bare minimum for a grade.
I planted radishes in the special dirt, and they came up all weird.
Well, that's great, Patterson, but don't you think you could do more? Jake Sisko visited the Gamma Quadrant for his project. Dad agrees, saying it'll be a working vacation between father and son, which makes me suspect he used the science project as a ruse to spend some time with his son. They have a great relationship anyways. Let the man spend some time with his kid. Of course, Jake decides to throw a wrench in the father-son plans by inviting his friend Nog on this trip, because Nog needs a science partner or he'll drop out of school.
Maybe he can help you analyze the survey information when we get back.
That's not enough. Miss O'Brien said he'd have to be an equal partner.
I'm really going to have to discuss this with Chief O'Brien. But Dad agrees. Well, the father-son +1 trip is underway. Make that +2. Uncle Quark is tagging along.
What does it look like? I'm going with you.
Since when?
Bet you wish you let Jake grow his beans, don't you, Dad?
Well, let's get going before anyone else shows up.
The trip starts with a hike through a generic Earth-like woods. Dad is miserable, Quark is miserable, but Jake and Nog having a blast. Guaranteed an A.
Going a little lead there, too.
that's from the surrounding soil, but we think it's localized.
We're going to check other water sources just to be sure.
However, tensions become inflamed later on at dinner.
I'm on fire! I'm on fire!
This prompts Nog to run away, Jake to run after him, and Quark and Sisko to argue back at camp.
Tell me, Commander, would you allow your son to marry a Ferengi female?
I never thought about it.
Exactly my point.
In the midst of arguing, a Vorta named Eris appears and attacks Sisko with her never-seen-again telepathic powers, all before all three of them are captured.
This has not been a good day.
Bet you wish you let Jake grow those beans, huh, Dad?
Did you have something to do with this?
This, of course, marks the first appearance of the Vorta and Jem'Hadar in DS9, both of which make frequent appearances in the show from this point on. At this point, the episode goes back and forth between Jake and Nog trying to get the runabout up and running to get help back at the station, and Sisko, Quark, and Eris being detained. Eris tells Sisko and Quark about the Dominion and the Jem'Hadar. Basically, if the Dominion wants something, they come and take it or send in the Jem'Hadar. Quark eventually starts shouting, which attracts the attention of the Jem'Hadar. This Jem'Hadar
I'm third Talak Talan of the Jem'Hadar.
Tells Sisko that the Dominion won't allow any more ships from the other side of the wormhole to violate Dominion territory. He also knows an awful lot about the Ferengi, the Klingons, the Cardassians, just about everything on Sisko's side of the wormhole.
I hear the Klingons are effective warriors. What's that weapon they're so fond of, the Batleth?
Meanwhile, in orbit, Jake and Nog have a hard time disengaging the runabout to head back to the station.
Fire phasers! Lost torpedoes! And escape pods!
Bet he wishes Dad taught him how to pilot a runabout now!
That's not exactly a science project, is it?
And at the station, an uninvited visitor beams into ops.
But around here, it's customary to identify yourself before transporting into someone else's command center.
Apparently, he wants those damn Federation kids to stay off the Dominion's lawn. He then gives Major Kira a Bajoran pad taken from the now-destroyed Bajoran colony, New Bajor, with a list of every ship the Jem'Hadar destroyed on
our side of the anomaly.
This prompts DS9 and visiting Captain Keeg of the USS Odyssey to find out exactly what's happening on the other side of the wormhole and mount a rescue to save Sisko and the others. Long story short, Sisko, Quark, and Eris escape, Jake and Nog get rescued by Miles, the hero of Setlik 3 O'Brien, the Jem'Hadar destroy the Odyssey while in retreat, proving just how far they're willing to go, and back on the station, it turns out Eris was a Dominion spy all along with foreshadowing that she'll be back. But she never is. Probably found another way of life.
I'm Sister Roberta.
Oh, Kramer.
Well, that's all fine and dandy, Waz, but where does your theory come into play? Right when the Jem'Hadar beams into ops and gives Kira the pad of every ship the Jem'Hadar destroyed. The reason the Jem'Hadar beamed onto the station to deliver that pad, informing both the Bajorans and Starfleet that their ships and colony were destroyed, which ultimately sparked the conflict between the Federation and the Dominion, which wasn't seen up to this point in the show, was because Sisko and Quark were captured in the Gamma Quadrant. Up to that point, if the Jem'Hadar destroyed a Starfleet ship in the Gamma Quadrant as retaliation for trespassing, the Federation back in the Alpha Quadrant would have just assumed that the ship was lost somehow. After all, ships occasionally get lost. Look at Voyager, look at the Pegasus, look at the original Defiant. The only reason DS9 found out about it was because Sisko and Quark were captured. And the reason Sisko and Quark were captured was because they took a trip to the Gamma Quadrant with Jake and Nog for Jake's science project. Now, there is a question of when New Bajor was destroyed. At the beginning of the episode, Kira mentions that new settlers were getting ready to head over there, implying that New Bajor hadn't been destroyed yet. However, it's also possible that New Bajor was already destroyed, but word hadn't reached DS9 yet. If the latter is not the case, and New Bajor was destroyed as the result of Sisko's presence in the Gamma Quadrant for Jake's science project, then that's another tragedy caused by Jake's science project. And because of Jake's science project, the conflict that eventually led to war between the two quadrants was started.
This has turned into some science project, huh, Jake?
Now, if all this holds water, and I'm not completely off my Starfleet captain's chair rocker, then another question arises. Who is to blame for Jake's science project? Do we blame Jake, who just wanted to grow beans and maybe pilot a runabout? Do we blame Ben, who just wanted his son to apply himself more? Do we blame Jake again for coming up with going to the Gamma Quadrant? Do we blame Quark for coming along and attracting the attention of Eris and the Jem'Hadar? Or do we go straight to the source? The one who assigned the project in the first place. Keiko O'Brien.
What this place needs is a school.
But then the question becomes, is anyone truly ready to answer the question, is Keiko O'Brien responsible for the Dominion War? Perhaps a video for another day, or perhaps I'm not fully ready to answer that question. In the end, all I can say is this. The kid just wanted to grow some beans, and his project ended up sparking an interstellar war. So, what do you think of my maybe serious, maybe kidding theory? Is this theory insane, or does it make a little too much sense?
Or am I so sane that you just blew your mind?
And what are some of your craziest Star Trek theories? Please leave a comment below and discuss. As always, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Treknalysis. If you like what you see, why not give my video a like and subscribe to my channel? Tell your friends! Until next time...
I have the right to express my opinion.
I'm about to put my fist in your opinion.